"She's not the same girl," I whispered, just as her bedroom lock clicked again. Third time that night. And earlier, she warned me, warned her own father. "If you dig, you'll lose me forever." But the real slap came the next morning, when I found a tuition bill for a $45,000 private academy, paid by a mystery family trust I never created, while she was still missing. That's when I realized someone was planning her future without me. They didn't just take my daughter. They tried to rewrite who she was, but they forgot one thing. I built this house on truth, and I keep every receipt. Now I just have to choose. Stay quiet and lose her forever, or dig. My name is Mark Callahan, and I'm 45 years old. I wake at 5 each morning, pack my thermos with black coffee, and head to the office where I've worked since Emily, my 16-year-old daughter, was in kindergarten. After my wife Karen left us, I built our world on simple rhythms. Friday pasta nights, weekend softball practice, my trusty paid-off sedan in the driveway. Emily's worn baseball gloves still hang on the pegboard, right where they belong. Karen never quite disappeared. Her texts pop up with hollow promises, and her lawyer's letters arrive like clockwork. But I've got my own insurance. Every receipt scanned, every conversation logged, and my old colleague, Jack Reynolds, who saved my job during layoffs, ready to back me up. When you build a life on truth, lies come dressed as miracles. But let me start from the beginning. The knock came at 9:47 p.m. 3 sharp raps that cut through the drone of the evening news. I'd been sitting in my recliner, pretending to watch while actually staring at the wall of photos above the TV. Emily's school portraits year by year, marking time like rings in a tree. My legs were stiff as I crossed to the door. 30 days of sitting by that phone, waiting for news, had turned my muscles to concrete. You know that feeling when your whole world hangs on the other side of a door? That's where I was, hand trembling on the knob. When I opened it, there she stood. My Emily. Alive. Different. Her shoulders were pulled back in a way I'd never seen, like she was bracing against something. The porch light caught her eyes, but they skittered away from mine, settling somewhere over my left shoulder. Her right hand had a death grip on a phone I didn't recognize, one of those fancy models with the sleek case. "Baby girl," I whispered, reaching for her. She let me hug her, but her arms stayed stiff, like hugging a mannequin. When I pulled back, she slipped past me into the house, heading straight for the stairs. 2 detectives followed her in, their faces set in those practiced good news smiles. Detective Morris, the younger one, clapped me on the shoulder. "She's home safe, Mr. Callahan. That's what matters." His partner, Rodriguez, nodded along. "Emily's been through a lot. She needs time, space. Best thing now is to let her settle back in." "But what happened? Who took her?" My voice cracked. 30 days of questions crowded my throat. Morris shook his head. "She's not talking about it. Without her statement," he trailed off, shrugging. "We'll keep the file open," Rodriguez added. But I could see it in their eyes. Case closed. He left his card on the kitchen counter, next to Emily's untouched welcome home pasta. "Call if anything comes up." After they left, the house felt wrong. Empty, even though Emily was upstairs. I heard her door close. Then the lock click. Then a second click, like she was double-checking it. I stood at the kitchen sink, mechanically washing dishes, straining to hear any movement above. The old Emily would have been at her piano by now, working through her frustrations with Chopin. But the bench sat empty, gathering dust. Remember how I mentioned being a record keeper? Well, that compulsion kicked in hard. I needed to do something, organize something. So I started sorting through the pile of mail that had stacked up during those 30 days. The calendar on the fridge caught my eye. All those X's I'd marked, counting the days she was gone. 30 red slashes, like claw marks across the weeks. My hands shook as I started bagging the junk mail. That's when I saw it. A cream-colored envelope. Heavy paper stock, sliding out from between credit card offers. The kind of envelope that means money's changing hands. The logo grabbed me first. Riverdale Academy Bursary Office. Below that, in crisp type, Family Trust. Tuition remittance. My breath caught. Family Trust. What family trust? Upstairs, Emily's lock clicked again. 3rd time tonight. Each sound like a little barrier going up between us. I studied that envelope like it might explode. The postmark was from 2 weeks ago, while Emily was still missing. The stamp was one of those custom jobs, with a crest I didn't recognize. A chill worked its way up my spine as I slipped the envelope into my back pocket. Emily's door was still locked tight, but light leaked under it, She was awake up there, doing God knows what on that fancy phone. I hit the kitchen light and stood in the dark for a minute, listening to the house settle. That envelope felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Come morning, I'd know every word on every line inside it. But right now, in the dark, one thought kept circling. Someone had been planning things for my daughter. Planning them while she was supposed to be missing. Dawn crept through the kitchen windows as I spread that tuition bill across the dining table. My coffee sat untouched, gone cold while I stared at numbers that shouldn't exist. $45,000 per semester. The kind of money that'd make my checking account laugh if it could. You know that feeling when something's so wrong it makes your teeth hurt? That's what hit me looking at those pristine columns of figures. I'd spent 16 years tracking every dime that went toward Emily's future. College fund statements, AP exam fees, piano lesson receipts. This bill was like finding a stranger's footprint in fresh concrete. The sound of Emily's door opening upstairs snapped me to attention. I didn't hide the papers. No point playing games when truth was already on the table. Instead, I got up and started breakfast. The familiar rhythm of cracking eggs and buttering toast helped steady my hands. Emily came down in her school clothes, that new phone still glued to her palm. She hesitated in the doorway, nostrils flaring at the smell of breakfast. "Made your favorite," I said, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across the counter. The way Mom used to make them, with the cheese melted just right. Her shoulders tensed at the mention of Karen, but she sat down. Small victories, right? I waited until she'd taken a few bites before pulling the bill closer. "Found something interesting in the mail," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Tuition payment for Riverdale Academy. Pretty impressive number. Thing is, I don't remember setting up any family trust." The fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Her eyes darted to that damn phone, then back to me. "Emily," I tapped the escrow line. "This kind of money doesn't just appear. I need to know what's going on." She set the fork down with a precision that reminded me of defusing bombs in old war movies. When she spoke, her voice was flat, controlled. "Don't dig, Dad, or you'll lose me forever." The heat drained from my body so fast I swear I felt it pool around my feet. The kitchen tiles seemed to shift under me, and I took a step back, steadying myself against the counter. Emily stood up, breakfast half finished. The morning light caught her face, and for a second, I saw someone else looking back at me. Someone older, harder, wearing my daughter's features like a mask. My hands were shaking as I gathered up the bill, sliding it into the manila folder labeled Education Emily in my careful block letters. That folder had been a point of pride once, filled with honor roll certificates and music competition ribbons. Now it felt like evidence. The bursary logo drew my eye again. I found myself memorizing every detail. The serif font, the tiny watermark visible when you held it to the light, the precise shade of burgundy in the crest. 16 years of keeping records had taught me that details matter. Sometimes they're all you have. Emily grabbed her backpack and headed for the door. The lock screen on her phone flashed as she checked it one more time. "Have a good day at school," I called after her. The words felt hollow, like speaking into an empty room. After she left, I stood at the sink, watching my cold coffee swirl down the drain. The morning sun caught the soap bubbles, making them shine like fool's gold. A simple truth settled in my gut. Sometimes protecting means waiting. Waiting and watching and gathering what you need. I looked at that folder on the table. Education. Emily, staring back at me like a challenge. Later, I told myself. I'd get answers later. But standing there in my quiet kitchen, later wasn't just a time, it was becoming a plan. The precinct lobby hadn't changed since my last visit. Same fluorescent buzz, same coffee-stained forms in plastic holders, same tired faces behind bulletproof glass. Even the squeaky wheel on the water cooler played the same note. Detective Morris saw me before I reached the desk. He had that look cops get when they're about to disappoint you. Professional sympathy wrapped around a steel core of no. "Mr. Callahan." He gestured to a corner desk. "What can I help you with?" I settled into the hard plastic chair, pulling out the tuition bill. "Found this yesterday. Emily's name on a trust account I never set up. Someone's moving money, detective. Could be connected to where she was those 30 days. Morris barely glanced at the paper. "Unless Emily's willing to talk about what happened, our hands are tied. Case is closed." Closed. My voice came out sharper than intended. Someone had my daughter for a month. Now there's mystery money flowing through accounts I can't trace. That doesn't set off any alarms? Look. He leaned back, badge catching the ugly ceiling light. Emily's home. She's safe. No signs of physical trauma. Without her cooperation, We've got nothing to investigate. You ever notice how nothing we can do sounds exactly like nothing we want to do? I left the precinct into afternoon sunshine that felt too bright, too normal. My phone buzzed. Another automated survey about my police service experience. Delete. Second buzz. Emily's school reminding me about parent-teacher conferences. Delete. Third buzz. Spam about extending my car warranty. Story of my life. Plenty of noise, zero answers. Home felt different now, like someone had gone through with a ruler and shifted everything half an inch left. Emily's bedroom door was closed, as usual. Music leaked from under it, something with a heavy bass line I didn't recognize. When had she stopped playing piano? Dinner was takeout pizza, eaten in silence broken only by the soft tap of Emily's thumbs on her phone screen. Group chat notifications kept lighting up her lock screen. Names I'd never heard her mention before. She wore earbuds even walking to the bathroom, like she was afraid I might try to start a conversation. After she went upstairs, I pulled out that manila folder again. Started adding sticky notes, building the kind of paper trail that had saved my job more than once. Yellow tab, bursary logo details. Pink tab, that escrow subaccount number. Green tab, family trust, unknown settler, with 3 question marks. I logged into the school parent portal, downloaded her attendance records since she'd been back. Everything looked normal on paper. Perfect attendance, no tardies. But normal on paper doesn't mean normal in life. Trust me on that one. The calendar above my desk became Command Central. I thumbed a red tack through day 1 back and started counting forward. 30 empty squares stared back at me. Each one a chance to piece this puzzle together. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and know something's wrong but can't put your finger on it? That's what my house felt like now. Everything looked right, but nothing felt right. Like living in a stage set of my own home. The truth hit me somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m. This wasn't about earning trust. It was about infiltration. Someone had worked their way into my daughter's world while she was gone, rewired her loyalty from the inside out, and I had a pretty good idea. It started with that family trust. I grabbed my phone, scrolled through contacts until I hit Jack Reynolds. Jack, who dug through 5 years of corporate filings to prove accounting fraud when they tried to lay me off. Jack, who knew how to follow paper trails better than any detective. My thumb hovered over his name. The kitchen clock ticked past 1 a.m., but I knew he'd still be up, probably doing his midnight crossword, neat bourbon on the side table. I set the phone down. This call could wait till morning, when I had my thoughts in order. Besides, some decisions need the weight of daylight behind them. Morning came too soon, but I was already up. Had my coffee poured before the sun even thought about rising. Funny how a clear purpose can wake you better than any alarm. I spread everything across my desk, the kind of methodical layout I'd learned from years of keeping receipts for tax season. The tuition bill went first, smoothed flat under my scanner's lid. 3 quick beeps, and it was digital, ready to email. My bank statements followed, all 30 days worth. Nothing fancy about my finances. Regular deposits, regular withdrawals, the steady rhythm of a single dad's paycheck doing its job. You know that feeling when you're assembling a jigsaw puzzle and you finally get all the edge pieces sorted? That's what I was after. The timeline came next, scratched out on a legal pad in my cleanest handwriting. March 15th, Emily disappears walking home from volleyball practice. April 14th, Emily returns. No explanation. April 15th, police close the case faster than a mall at midnight. Each date got its own sticky flag, yellow, blue, red. Colors matter when you're building evidence. Jack taught me that during the layoff mess. I positioned my desk lamp just right and snapped photos of the bursary watermark from 3 different angles. The trust's letterhead had this fancy little pattern in the corner, the kind of detail that might matter later. Got that documented too. After dinner, another silent affair with Emily's phone buzzing every few minutes. I tried one last time to reach her. Kept my voice casual, like we were just sharing stories over ice cream like we used to. Hey sweetie, been thinking about that night you came home. Must have been quite a relief walking up these steps again. I gestured at our front porch through the kitchen window. Want to talk about it? Emily's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Her jaw tightened, just like her mother's used to when she'd made up her mind about something. I already told you, Dad. Don't dig. The warning came out harder this time. Arctic cold. No trace of my little girl, who used to beg for bedtime stories. Right then, watching her push away from the table without meeting my eyes, it hit me. Playing along meant losing her inch by inch. Compliance today meant waking up someday to an empty house and a daughter who'd learned to live without me. Not happening. Not while I could still fight. I waited until her bedroom door clicked shut, then pulled out a fresh set of manila folders. Labeled them with my best block letters: school, finance, observations. Started filling them with everything I had. Attendance records, bank statements, notes about Emily's new habits. Even sketched out the layout of her room, marking changes since she'd returned. The music posters that had disappeared, replaced by college brochures I'd never seen before. Jack's contact card glowed on my phone screen. Just his name and number, plus that photo from our department softball game 3 years back. He stood there gripping a bat, gray at the temples but steady as bedrock. Same guy who'd spent 6 weeks digging through accounting records to prove they were targeting the wrong people for layoffs. Saved 4 jobs, including mine. Never asked for credit. Emily's threat echoed in my head, mixing with the soft whir of my ceiling fan. Don't dig, Dad, or you'll lose me forever. Sorry, kiddo. Sometimes digging is all we've got left. I stacked the folders by the front door, right next to my car keys. Set my alarm for 6 a.m., early enough to catch Jack before he started his consulting rounds. Tomorrow would be about one thing only: finding out who was behind that trust account. Because whoever had enough pull to set up secret tuition payments had to be the same ones who'd orchestrated Emily's disappearance. My girl was still in there somewhere, behind those strangers' eyes, and I was done watching from the sidelines. I called Jack at 6:05 the next morning, watching dawn creep across my kitchen floor. 2 rings, then that familiar gravel voice. Mark, early for you. Got a situation, Jack. Remember when you dug through those layoff records for us? Need that kind of help again? It's about Emily. His tone shifted instantly. The kidnapping case? Thought they found her. They did. That's when the real trouble started. I walked him through it all. Emily's return, the locked phone, the strange tuition bill. My voice caught a bit describing her warning not to dig. Something's wrong, Jack. Someone's got hooks in my daughter. You ever notice how the best listeners just let silence do its work? Jack waited 2 beats before answering. Read me that bill. Every line, every number. I spread the paper under my desk lamp. Family trust. Tuition remittance. Date stamped. April 12th. Routing to escrow subaccount 4472885. Amount, 12,000 even. Semester payment? Yeah. Way beyond what I could swing on my salary. Email me everything. Clean scans, proper file names. Need your login credentials for any parent portals too. School website, grade system, everything. My fingers were already moving across the keyboard. Sending now. Named the files by date and type just like you taught me. Good man, I heard typing on his end. Got it. Give me a minute with this logo. While Jack worked, I poured coffee and watched the neighbors' sprinklers tick across their lawn. Felt strange standing there in my quiet kitchen while someone else picked apart the puzzle. Interesting, Jack muttered. This bursary setup. It's tied to some boutique scholarship outfit. Feeds into a private academy network. Exclusive circle. My grip tightened on the mug. Way above our tax bracket. Way above. Listen, Mark. Let me dig into the public filings. Pull the escrow metadata. Need 48 hours to do it right. Meanwhile, you keep things normal with Emily. Drive her to school, make dinner, act like nothing's changed. But document everything. Reactions, phone habits, new names she drops. Got a pocket notebook? Getting one now. I grabbed a small spiral pad from my desk drawer. I'd barely sat back down when my phone buzzed. 2 texts from Jack. First find. Donations coming through anonymized accounts. Recent setup. Then, second find. Trustee law firm, Chiu, Berkman and Hayes. Ring any bells? The taste of copper filled my mouth. Berkman and Hayes, Karen's attorneys during the separation. The ones who'd sent those manipulative letters about family reconciliation right before she disappeared from Emily's life. Jack, I said, voice steadier than I felt. Karen used that firm 7 years ago. Thought so. Adding it to the timeline. More typing. Listen. I can deep dive by Friday. Just keep Emily calm till then. Don't want to spook whoever's pulling strings. I agreed, hung up, and went straight to my printer. Fresh copies of everything. The bill, the timeline, the portal logins. Laid them out on my kitchen table like pieces in a chess game I was finally learning to play. The morning light touched each page, highlighting names and numbers that suddenly felt like ammunition. For the first time since Emily's return, I had more than just worry eating at my gut. I had direction. Jack's text lit up my phone one more time. Friday, 10 a.m., my office. Bring coffee. I started making notes in the pocket notebook, keeping it simple. Friday couldn't come fast enough. But I could be patient. Had to be, for Emily's sake. I heard her bedroom door open upstairs, tucked the notebook away, and started scrambling eggs like any other morning. Let the games begin. The Bell's Diner sign buzzed overhead as I pushed through the glass door at 9:55 a.m. sharp. Jack already had our usual booth, 2 steaming mugs waiting. His messenger bag bulged with papers, never a good sign when Jack brought the whole filing cabinet. That bad? I slid into the vinyl seat. He didn't touch his coffee. Worse, but eat first. The waitress dropped off my usual Denver omelet. Jack picked at his toast, organizing manila folders with the precision of a card dealer. We'd shared enough tough conversations for me to know his ritual. Food first, bombs later. Remember those moments when your whole world's about to shift? The omelet tasted like cardboard, but I forced it down. Jack watched the door, checked his watch, then pulled out a legal pad covered in his tight handwriting. "Ready?" he asked. I pushed my plate aside. "Hit me." Karen engineered the whole thing, Mark. The kidnapping, the academy placement, all of it. He spread documents across the table. Started 6 months ago with anonymous donations to this scholarship fund. My coffee went cold in my hand. What? She built it piece by piece. First, the bursary trust. He pointed to highlighted transfers. Then mentorship programs at St. Catherine's Academy. Honor societies, leadership tracks. All the fancy trimmings Emily never had access to before. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. My ribs felt like they were collapsing around my lungs. She orchestrated my daughter's disappearance? Made it look like a kidnapping to avoid interference. Meanwhile, Emily gets dropped into this elite circle. New friends, new opportunities, and a steady drip of messages about how her old life was. He checked his notes, limiting her potential. I grabbed my red pen and slashed "Karen staged it" across my timeline. The ink bled through the paper. "The trust pays for everything," Jack continued. "Tuition, uniforms, summer programs, all designed to make Emily dependent on staying in their orbit. There, Karen's got backing. Someone with serious money helping orchestrate." A man in a courier uniform appeared at our table. "Mark Callahan? That's me." He handed me a thick envelope. "You've been served. Have a nice day." The diner seemed to tilt sideways as I read the header. Petition for modification of custody. Karen's lawyer's letterhead gleamed at the top. "Don't react," Jack muttered. "Keep reading." The language was pure legal venom. Concerns regarding educational opportunities. Demonstrated pattern of limiting access to advancement. Conditional statement from minor child attached. I flipped to Emily's statement and felt my throat close. The words were polished, rehearsed. Nothing like my daughter's voice. "While I love my father, I believe my academic and social development would benefit from..." Jack flagged down our waitress. "Coffee refills, please." He grabbed a napkin and circled a date 30 days out. "That's your hearing. 1 month to prepare." I tried to steady my breathing, focusing on the fake wood grain of the table. She planned this all along. Used the kidnapping drama to position herself as the savior? Classic manipulation. Create a crisis, swoop in with a solution, then use the gratitude as leverage. Jack started sorting papers into piles. But she got sloppy, left paper trails we can follow. The diner clock ticked toward noon as I folded the custody summons into my folder. 30 days. 1 month to unravel 7 years of Karen's schemes before I lost Emily for good. Jack pulled out another stack of documents. "Let's start with these transfer records. The money always leaves breadcrumbs." Back home, I stood in the kitchen, marker in hand, staring at our magnetic calendar on the fridge. My fingers were steady as I wrote, "Custody hearing, day 30, in block letters that would remind me every morning what I was fighting for. "Structure beats emotion," Jack had said before we left the diner. "We build the paper trail first, then let the evidence do the talking." He laid out his battle plan over a third cup of coffee. Document everything, track the money, and above all, keep my cool. One angry outburst, one threatening text, and Karen's lawyers would paint me as unstable faster than you could say primary custody. You know what's harder than staying calm when your world's burning down? Pretending everything's normal while you watch your kids slip away. But that's exactly what I had to do. Emily came home from school, and I kept my voice level. "How was your day?" "Fine." She dropped her bag by the stairs, the same spot she'd always used since 3rd grade. The familiar thump made my chest ache. "Want to grab pizza tonight?" Maybe watch that new superhero movie? She glanced at her phone. Can't. Study group at Madison's. I noted the exchange in my pocket notebook. Date, time, response. Jack insisted we document everything. No problem. Need a ride? Madison's mom is picking me up. She headed upstairs, door clicking shut behind her. The next morning, I sat through a preliminary hearing while Karen's attorney, Thompson and Mitchell's rising star, worked the room like a talk show host. All smiles and Brooks Brothers' confidence while he dropped words like enrichment opportunities and developmental concerns. I gripped my armrest, keeping my face neutral as he spun every sacrifice I'd made into a limitation. The Friday night movies became social isolation. The careful budgeting that put Emily through piano lessons somehow proved I was resistant to advancement. The judge, peering over reading glasses, confirmed our hearing date and urged both parties to maintain stability during the interim period, like I was the one who'd orchestrated a fake kidnapping. That evening, Emily picked at her dinner, telling me about her amazing new academic advisor at St. Catherine's. Ms. Richardson says I have real potential for the Ivy League track. She's helping me plan advanced placement courses. I wrote it down later. 7:15 p.m. Praised new mentor, Richardson. Dismissed current school's college prep program. The words felt clinical on paper, but each entry was another twist of the knife. Every fine and locked door, every canceled movie night and missed family dinner, they all went into the notebook, building a record while watching my daughter vanish behind a wall of private school promises. My phone buzzed close to midnight. Jack's text lit up the dark kitchen. Found irregular transfers through Meridian Holdings LLC. Real estate firm, looks like a shell company. Give me 24 hours to trace the pattern. I grabbed my whiteboard marker, added real estate to my growing web of connections, and drew a question mark beside it. Then I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m., early enough to catch Jack before he dove into another day of digging. Standing there in the quiet kitchen, I touched the calendar where I'd marked day 30. The same fridge that used to display Emily's art projects and honor roll certificates now held a countdown to possibly losing her. My fingers traced the block letters, remembering how she used to practice her handwriting at this same counter. Tongue stuck out in concentration while she copied my printing style. Sometimes the hardest fights aren't the loud ones. They're the silent battles where you have to watch your steps, measure your words, and trust that the truth will surface if you just keep your head clear and your record straight. I opened my notebook one last time, adding Jack's text to the day's log. Tomorrow would bring more documents, more discoveries, more careful conversations. But for now, I had a plan, and sometimes that's enough to keep you standing. The phone buzzed at 5:15 a.m. I'd been staring at the ceiling since 4 anyway, so I grabbed it before the second ring. Mark. Jack's voice had that tight focus I remembered from our corporate days. Got something? You near your computer? I was already moving to my desk. Give me 30 seconds to boot up. Check your email. Subject line Meridian Holdings, review required. Download everything before you open it. The familiar clack of keys filled my dark office as I saved the attachments. Done. What am I looking at? Start with the PDF labeled Trust Flow. Your daughter's scholarship money? It's doing gymnastics through Karen's boyfriend's real estate company. My screen filled with a spreadsheet that looked like a spider's web drawn in Excel. Walk me through it. See those columns on the left? That's bursary funds entering a holding account. Follow the arrows. Every deposit splits 3 ways. 2/3 goes to property acquisitions. The rest cycles through 4 shell LLCs before landing in private accounts. I grabbed a legal pad and started mapping the flow. Who owns the shells? That's where it gets interesting. Each one's registered to a different corporate agent, but they all funnel back to Meridian Holdings. Karen's boyfriend runs the show there. Timothy Walsh, real estate developer with a creative accounting department. The printer hummed as I generated hard copies, labeling them in sequence. Exhibit A, initial fund transfer. Exhibit B, holding account statement. On through H, building a paper trail that would make an auditor weep. There's more, Jack said. Page 4, middle section, advisory fees. I flipped pages until I found it. A neat column of 5-figure payments to someone listed only as family consultant. That's a lot of money for consultation, I said. Look at the signature block on the disbursement forms. My heart did a funny skip. What am I looking for? You still have access to your old family email? The one you used for mortgage stuff years back? Yeah, haven't deleted anything since Karen left. I opened another window, typing faster than usual. What year? Try 2019, the refinance paperwork. I dug through archived folders, found the tax prep subfolder, and started opening PDFs. The third one had what I needed, our last joint refinance application before the split. And there it was, that distinctive signature with its looping G that I'd seen on birthday cards and Christmas presents for Jesus. The word came out like I'd been punched. That's George's signature, my brother, my own brother, who'd helped me move furniture when Karen left, who came to Emily's piano recitals and Little League games, who said he'd always have my back. Send me a clean photo of that signature, Jack said quietly. High contrast if you can manage it. My hands shook as I positioned the refinance page under my desk lamp. The phone's camera clicked, and I attached the image to an email. Got it, Jack confirmed seconds later. It's a match, Mark. George has been taking consultant fees while helping Karen set this whole thing up. I pushed back from the desk, suddenly needing air. The room felt too small, too close. On my whiteboard, all those connections I'd drawn, they weren't just lines anymore. They were ropes, and my own blood had helped weave them. Mark, you still there? Yeah, my voice sounded far away. Just processing. I know it's a lot, but we've got solid documentation now. Every transfer, every shell company, every fee payment. They can't hide this anymore. I looked at the family photo on my bookshelf. Last Christmas, before everything went sideways, George stood right behind Emily, one hand on her shoulder, smiling straight at the camera. The same smile he'd given me every Sunday dinner while he was cashing checks from Karen's scheme. What's our next move? I managed to ask. We build the exhibits into an airtight package. The custody hearings in 20 days. Plenty of time to let the evidence do the talking. I spread the pages across my desk. Arrows and account numbers and betrayal laid bare in black and white. The sun was rising now, painting my office walls in shades of gray. Somewhere upstairs, Emily's alarm would be going off, soon. Another school day in a life I barely recognized anymore. Mark? Jack's voice pulled me back. You good to keep going? I picked up my pen and turned to a fresh page in my notebook. Tell me exactly what you need. The sodium lights in the parking lot cast everything in a sickly orange. I met Jack by his car, hands stuffed in my pockets against the pre-dawn chill. He had a manila envelope tucked under one arm and the kind of expression that made my stomach knot. I ran the signatures through 3 different comparison tools, he said, pulling out a sheet of overlays. No doubt about it, Mark. George's signature on those consultant payments matches your family documents perfectly. My legs went weak. I dropped onto the concrete curb, elbows finding my knees. The pavement felt cold and rough through my jeans. Walk me through it again, I managed. All of it. Jack settled beside me with a grunt. Karen set up the trust through that fancy law firm of hers, but she needed someone on the inside, someone who could make the money moves look legitimate while keeping everything quiet. That's where George came in. My own brother. The words tasted like copper. He brokered the whole setup. Got paid advisory fees to handle the paperwork. Route the transactions through Walsh's real estate business. Made sure everything looked clean on paper. Remember those Sunday dinners? The way George would lean back in his chair, asking Emily about school while his signature was still drying on documents designed to tear us apart? Hell, he'd probably texted Karen updates from my own dining room. 3 months ago, I said slowly. He helped me install new shelves in Emily's room. Told me I was doing a good job raising her. Jack's hand found my shoulder. That's what makes it perfect cover. Who'd suspect the supportive uncle? A delivery truck rumbled past, its headlights sweeping across us. I watched my shadow stretch and shrink on the asphalt. I want to confront him, I said. Right now. Drive over there and what? Jack's voice stayed steady. Give them warning. Let them start shredding documents and covering tracks. They've already got Emily halfway convinced. You tip your hand now. They'll have time to patch any holes in their story. The humiliation crashed over me again, hot and thick. Every shared holiday, every borrowed tool, every I got your back, brother, all of it poisoned. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes until stars burst behind my lids. I can't just sit there, I whispered. Pretend everything's normal while they fight smart, Jack cut in, or they win twice. I looked at him. His face was lined with shadows, but his eyes were clear and sharp. First time wins when they took Emily, he continued. Second time wins if you let emotion sink your case. We've got the paper trail now, every transfer, every shell company, every kickback payment. But it only works if we play it smart. The morning air felt thick in my lungs. How long? 2 more weeks. We organize everything. Index it properly. Present it when they can't wiggle out. He patted the manila envelope. Right now, this is just paper. We need to make it a weapon. I pushed to my feet, legs steadier than I expected. What do you need from me? Clean copies of everything. Bank statements, mortgage docs, anything with George's signature. And we timestamp every exhibit, build a timeline they can't challenge. Back home, I spread it all across my desk, created a master index, cross-referenced dates and account numbers, labeled exhibits with precise notation. Each page felt like another brick in a wall between me and the brother I thought I knew. The sky started lightening outside my window. I slipped the completed binder into a leather portfolio and set it by the front door, right next to the charcoal suit and navy tie I'd pressed the night before. Simple clothes, nothing flashy. Let the evidence do the talking. I lowered myself into my reading chair, watching dawn creep across the carpet. Jack's words echoed in my head. Fight smart, or they win twice. The morning light touched the portfolio, making the leather gleam. 2 weeks until the hearing. 2 weeks of smiling at my brother's betrayal. I could do it. For Emily, I could do anything. The courthouse steps felt like a mountain under my feet. Each marble stair brought me closer to the moment I'd spent 30 days preparing for. Jack's shoulder brushed mine as we pushed through the heavy oak doors, our footsteps echoing in the vaulted lobby. You ever notice how time gets strange in moments like these? The walk to courtroom B seemed to stretch for miles, but I couldn't tell you a single detail about passing through security or finding our seats. Everything narrowed down to the weight of that leather portfolio in my hands and the steady tick of the wall clock above the judge's bench. Karen sat at the counsel table like she was posing for a magazine cover. Cream blazer, perfect posture, that practiced smile she'd always used when she wanted something. The kind that used to make my stomach flip. Back before I understood what it really meant. Emily hunched beside her, eyes fixed on the floor, fingers wrapped around that damn phone. My chest ached at how small she looked. "All rise," the clerk called, and we shuffled to our feet. Judge Martinez settled behind the bench, adjusting her reading glasses while scanning the preliminary briefs. "Callahan versus Callahan," the clerk announced. "Custody modification hearing." I slid into my chair, the leather portfolio centered precisely on the table. Jack's knee bumped mine. Our signal to stay steady. Stick to the plan. "Your Honor," Karen's attorney started, all polished charm. "We've prepared a comprehensive—" "Actually," I cut in, keeping my voice level. "I'd like to introduce some relevant evidence before we proceed." The portfolio clicked open, exhibits arranged exactly as Jack and I had rehearsed. Judge Martinez nodded. "Go ahead, Mr. Callahan. Remember those old westerns where someone fans out a royal flush? That's how it felt laying down those exhibits. A through H, each one another nail in their coffin. The escrow statements came first, showing the trust formation. Then the tuition remittances, each one tied to a specific subaccount. The trustee letters mapped out the whole pipeline. "Objection," Karen's attorney jumped up. "These documents weren't part of discovery." "Because they were deliberately concealed," I replied, sliding forward the holding company documentation. "As shown in Exhibit D, page 3. Judge Martinez studied the filing dates. "Objection overruled. Continue, Mr. Callahan." The flow diagram was my masterpiece. 3 weeks of late nights with Jack, tracking every dollar from the trust through the maze of shell companies, all leading straight to Walsh Development Group, Karen's boyfriend's real estate firm. I set it on the projector, letting the arrows tell their story. You could feel the air change in that courtroom. The judge's eyes narrowed behind her glasses. The clerk stopped pretending to look bored. Even Karen's smile flickered for a second. "And the family consultant fees noted here?" Judge Martinez tapped the ledger excerpt. "Who received those payments?" My throat wanted to close up. 30 days of rage and betrayal tried to claw their way out, but I heard Jack's voice in my head. "Fight smart. Your Honor, I'd prefer to reserve that revelation until the full exhibit package has been entered and authenticated by the court." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. We'll take 20 minutes while my clerk makes copies and notifies compliance review." The gavel cracked like a gunshot. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until I hit the hallway. The water fountain gave me an excuse to turn away from the crowd filing out of the courtroom. The water tasted metallic, but it helped steady my hands. 30 days. 30 days of watching my daughter drift further away while I built this case, piece by piece. 30 days of seeing my brother at family dinners, knowing what he'd done. 30 days of Karen's smug smile at preliminary hearings, thinking she had it all locked up. Jack appeared beside me, his voice low, clean and clear, just like we planned. "You're doing great." I straightened up, adjusting my tie. 20 minutes until round 2. 20 minutes until everyone learned what family consultant really meant. The 20 minutes felt like 20 years. I straightened my tie one last time as we filed back in, noticing a new face in a charcoal suit settling into the back row. The way she held that clipboard, all businesslike. I knew exactly what regulatory compliance looked like. Jack had promised they'd show. "Court is back in session," the clerk announced. I stayed on my feet, centering the last exhibits. "Your Honor, I'd like to continue with the financial documentation." Judge Martinez gestured for me to proceed. The projector hummed to life again, throwing that damning flowchart onto the screen. "These advisory payments," I began, my voice steady as a level, "were structured to trigger at specific milestones in the academic year." I laid out the timeline, each payment matching perfectly with Emily's new school events. 5,000 for enrollment, 10,000 at midterms, another 15,000 projected for finals. My brother shifted in his seat. I could feel him wanting to look anywhere but at me. "The payments were processed through a series of masked accounts," I continued, "but they all share one common feature." I placed the signature samples on the projector. The authorizing signature on every transfer. The overhead lights caught Karen's perfect makeup as her spine went rigid. My brother studied his hands like they held the secrets of the universe. "Your Honor," I said, keeping my tone measured, "as Emily's father, I have a duty to protect her interests. These documents show a systematic effort to exploit my daughter's trust fund for personal gain. The staging of her disappearance, the manipulation of her loyalty, it was all orchestrated to facilitate this financial scheme." I turned slightly toward Emily. She wasn't looking at the floor anymore. Her eyes were fixed on the projection screen, on the signature she'd seen on birthday cards and Christmas presents her whole life. Her uncle's signature. "Miss Callahan," Judge Martinez addressed Emily directly, "do you understand what these documents represent?" Emily's knuckles went white around her phone. Yes, Your Honor." Her voice shook like autumn leaves. "The trust, it wasn't real?" "Objection!" Karen's attorney shot to his feet. "This presentation of evidence is prejudicial and overruled." Judge Martinez cut him off. She turned to address the compliance officer. "Ms. Chen, I assume you'll want copies of these exhibits." "Yes, Your Honor." The officer's pen scratched against her clipboard. "Particularly F through H, for immediate referral to our enforcement division." I watched the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Karen's practiced smile had vanished completely now. Her attorney's questions about my fitness as a parent suddenly seemed very far away, as the judge's focus shifted to words like fraud and misappropriation. "Your Honor, I move to exclude these financial records on grounds of—" Karen's attorney tried one last time. "Denied." Judge Martinez removed her reading glasses. "I'll take a brief recess to review these materials in chambers before issuing my ruling." She stood, and we all rose with her. "Court will resume in 30 minutes. The gavel cracked again, and the judge disappeared through the door behind her bench. I sank into my chair, everything I'd built over the last 30 days now in her hands. Emily sat frozen between Karen and her attorney, the phone forgotten in her lap. I wanted so badly to go to her, to tell her none of this was her fault, but all I could do was wait, watching the minute hand tick forward with agonizing slowness. The compliance officer was already on her phone in the back corner, speaking in low, urgent tones. My brother had disappeared into the hallway. Karen's attorney bent to whisper in her ear, probably explaining just how thoroughly their house of cards had collapsed. Jack's hand settled on my shoulder. "You did good," he murmured. "Real good." I nodded, not trusting my voice. 30 minutes. 30 minutes until the judge came back. 30 minutes until we knew if all those sleepless nights and endless documentation had been enough. The courtroom clock kept ticking, each second echoing like thunder in the heavy silence. The door to chambers opened, and we all rose as Judge Martinez returned to the bench. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady. 30 days of truth were about to meet their moment. "Having reviewed the evidence presented," she began, adjusting her glasses, "this court finds compelling cause for immediate action on 2 fronts." She lifted a document I recognized as my timeline. First, regarding custody. The systematic manipulation of Emily Callahan's circumstances, coupled with documented financial misconduct involving her trust funds, renders the petitioner Karen Matthews demonstrably unfit for custodial responsibility. The judge paused, letting that sink in. Karen's perfect mask started to slip at the edges. "Primary custody will remain with Mark Callahan, with any future visitation subject to strict supervision and financial oversight." Judge Martinez's tone could have frozen mercury. "The court finds Mr. Callahan has demonstrated unwavering commitment to his daughter's well-being, even in the face of extraordinary pressure and manipulation." Emily's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering on the table. I wanted to reach for her, but I held still, letting the moment settle on its own weight. Second, the judge continued, this court is referring all evidence of financial impropriety to the appropriate regulatory authorities. She nodded to the compliance officer. Ms. Chen, you'll find the complete exhibit package ready for transfer. I'm ordering an immediate freeze on all associated accounts pending full investigation. My brother finally looked up, his face gone chalk white. This includes, Judge Martinez emphasized, all real estate trust accounts, holding company assets, and personal accounts linked to the identified kickback scheme. She fixed my brother with a steel gaze. Mr. James Callahan, you are specifically named in this referral for your role in facilitating these transactions. The compliance officer's pen scratched faster across her forms. Karen's composure finally shattered, saw it crack like thin ice, spreading from her eyes to her carefully painted mouth. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell with the weight of truth. I gathered my papers slowly, letting the chaos swirl around me. Karen's attorney was already on his phone, probably calling in every favor he had. My brother had vanished, leaving only the ghost of his betrayal hanging in the air. The compliance officer collected her copies with methodical precision, each page another nail in their coffin. Emily stood alone between the tables, looking lost in a way that squeezed my chest. Ready to go home, kid? I kept my voice gentle. She nodded, and we walked out together, leaving the wreckage behind us. The drive home was quiet, not the tense silence of recent weeks, but something softer, like the air after a storm. I didn't push it. Some things need time to settle into their new shape. When we got home, Emily went straight upstairs to her room. I followed a few minutes later, carrying a glass of water I knew she probably wouldn't drink. Her door was open, the first time in 30 days. She sat at her old desk, the one I'd built her for her 10th birthday. Her fingers traced the family crest I'd carved into the corner, every line and curve a promise I'd kept. Then she picked up a pencil and began to sketch it, copying each detail with slow, deliberate strokes. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her shade the ancient lines deeper and steadier than they'd been before. The afternoon sun played across the paper, across her focused expression, across 30 days of lies finally burned away by simple truth. Something in my chest unknotted as I watched her work. The house seemed to exhale around us, creaking back into its familiar rhythms. I could have said 1,000 things in that moment about justice or family or trust, but sometimes silence says everything that matters. Emily kept sketching, her hand sure and strong. And I thought about what I'd known all along, what had carried us through every dark turn. No lie outlasts the truth.